And I think we'll get started. Is parking really bad out there today? Yes? Okay. Taking long walks in the cold today. Okay, well, hopefully people will still meander in. I'm Cindy Rivera, the head of the school counseling department here, and today we're going to just review what midterms look like for our newbies, for our freshmen today. I know some of them are feeling a little stressed about it, but I think hopefully this program will calm you down as you understand the how it works and what to think about for helping your child study for this exam. So I'm going to start. We have here so far, we were expecting a few more, but we have Michael LeDuc, the head of the social studies department. Not Michael Farcucci. Too many Michaels, other Michael. Ketman Holly, head of world languages. Rebecca Pavia, head of Opavia, head of the math department. And then we have Christy Carrero, your assistant principal. Bill is in the back. Hi, Bill. Okay, we'll get started then.
Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see you all. As I was just sharing with a few of you, you're probably thinking just like all of us, like it's so crazy that we're talking about midterms and they're already here. This year is flying by. I'm sure you feel the same. So this schedule will be sent out to families and students. It's fine if you take pictures. But this is the logistics of what our midterm week will look like. So our midterm week is the week before the Martin Luther King weekend. It starts with a review day on Friday, so that will be a C day. That means something to your children. And it will be an early release day, but the buses will run the same. So the buses will still run the same time they do in the morning and 2:30 in the afternoon. But classes are scheduled from 8 to 12, and those are the 1 through 4 day classes so that they can review with their teachers before those exams, the Monday and Tuesday. And then from 12 to 2:30, students do not have to stay, but if they wanted to, then that teachers are available for extra help during that time, and students are encouraged to reach out to their teachers so that teachers would know they would be coming. And then the first exam starts Monday, the 12th at 9:30, so the exams run an hour and a half for standard time. So periods 1 and 2 are on Monday, and then 3 and 4 are on Tuesday. If you notice, there's a big chunk in between. The cafeteria is open and students can get lunch. One thing that is always a question for freshman parents, if students do not have an exam, they don't have to be here. So if they don't have a period 1 or they had gym or health who doesn't have exams, they don't need to be here until 12:15, and vice versa. And then that Wednesday of the week will be the same review day, but with the 5 through 8 periods. So that's, again, an 8 to 12 schedule time with 12 to 2:30 available for extra help. Same thing every day during the exams. The buses run on normal schedules. And again, this will come out to all families and all students probably later this week, maybe in the weekly update. But this is just the basic gist, the logistics of the exam week. All right, thank you.
Okay. So first, as part of the basics is how to even get organized and plan for this. So your kids will get that calendar, and it's really good if you could sit down with them and say, okay, 1 and 2, you have only one exam. So let's look at how we're going to study for this. Let's set a calendar. How much time do you need? What do you want to look at? Each of the department chairs will explain what you're going to get to help prepare for these exams. But we want kids to look at perhaps where they did poorly on a test or where they were out for a little while and may have missed some key instruction, to go back and look at those things and look at those things first and perhaps seek some extra help from their teachers on those particular units and things that they're going to be looking at. The counselors presented to all the kids during the PSAT day on their learning styles. That was the freshman program, where they did an assessment on how they study best, what kinds of changes they could make in their own habits and behaviors to improve their own study skills to perhaps do better. So ask them about that if they came to that day. It was a good day, and they learned a lot of information around little things like, I do better if I study in groups versus studying alone. I do better if I study out loud if I have someone quizzing me versus studying by myself in my room. So talk to them about that. They should have gotten some information around that, and they can pull it up. Again, it's in Naviance, it's in our website, that they could pull up their own personal learning style to really review it with you, and do those kinds of things. Maintaining a positive attitude. If your kids are starting to really worry and think really forward, like this is going to be the worst part, I can't, these are cumulative exams, what am I going to do? I can't possibly memorize all of that. Just make sure you're always saying, you've got this. This is one period of time. It's not going to be that hard. It's going to be all that you've been learning, and you just keep telling them, you'll have it. It's fine. You're going to feel anxious. It's not something we want kids to be laid back about it. And this is part of life in the next 8 years or 10 years or 12 years, preparing for exams for them. We want them to learn how to walk through that anxiety and help them to settle and get back to work and work on it. So always keep telling them, stay in the present. What can you control today? What's on our calendar to work on today? Don't worry about that exam next week. Let's worry about this, and keep looking at it towards that. You can keep the environment calm and predictable and similar to what is a good environment in your home. It's not a time to have big parties or go away for the weekend or do anything like that, before they're jumping into this. Give them space to get this work done. They may need study breaks. They can't study 24/7 from 8 in the morning till 12 at night. Do not encourage that at all. They need to just study, go to class, take the advice of their teachers, go for it. Those extra, if teachers are offering extra study skills sessions, even if they think they know it, they should go, because they're hearing from the teacher what might be important to know. And kids are bringing up questions that perhaps your child said, oh, I don't know that either, so let's listen to that. So don't let them kind of avoid all this. This is just do the best they can. It's only 10%, can only be more than 10% of their grade. It won't impact things much, but it is incredibly good practice for them to work on this. Okay, I think we're going to go in line here a little bit. We're going to start with English.
Oh, yeah, sorry, just adding that. Actually, practice. All
He's
right.
still writing his scripts.
Yeah, I was just double checking. I was like, no, I don't like that. All right. All right. Good morning, everybody. We'll start. English is probably maybe the least exam-y, I guess, in that it's not the class you think of probably when you have a nightmare of a bad exam. And I don't know if everyone still has that recurring nightmare that you slept in and missed your exam. And it was usually, for me, it was always like a math class. And I realized, like, oh gosh, that was 3 hours ago and you're running towards it. But anyways, English exams, just really quickly, they are generally going to be skill focused. So this kind of is like talking about the 4-year span, and I'll talk about the 9th grade exam, which is probably more on your mind right now. We will focus on the core areas of our curriculum, which are reading, writing, or research. In 9th grade, it's going to be a reader-writer response, so it's going to be those two elements. Generally, the way the task will work out is the students will be given like kind of stimulus material, whether that is a short story or an excerpt, a passage from a novel or something like that, and they'll have to respond to it with kind of an open-ended question in a given time frame. They've practiced this a lot. They've done it since first grade, so it should be pretty familiar to them. The weighting in terms of like how much it's going to count, it won't be more than 10%. The 9th grade team is still kind of finalizing that number a little bit. because the units themselves, although we all hit upon the same units, some of the teachers unfold them in a little different order, so they're trying to come up with what they think is the best kind of compromise across all the ninth grade sections. And that we continue that pattern throughout, like I said, we collaborate closely in exams, and later on, like in AP, they'll be doing like a shortened AP exam, et cetera. So, yep, ninth grade exams will be a reader-writer response. We'll focus on the core standards of literacy and writing. And in terms of a study guide, it'll just be, if they haven't already gotten the material, an explanation and like the core rubrics and the standards that we'll be measuring beforehand. In terms of like preparation, I think this is like a deeper skill, so I would go against cramming. One of the things I would suggest, though, if your child is particularly nervous about it, is doing a practice. And they can certainly approach their teacher. Some classes have already done this a few times, so the teacher may feel like there's no need to belabor the point a little bit. But I guess if it's a point of concern or agitation, I think always practicing, doing a dry run, and then working with a teacher or even the writing center and say, look, can I get some feedback on this? Because it's one of these iterative skills. The more you do it, the better you get at it. But a lot of times progress is slow or sometimes nonlinear, so students can get discouraged and just think like, there's nothing I can do. I'm just going to show up and take the exam. So that's my little nudge on that one. But it does kind of measure a deeper skill, so I understand why students sometimes think that. All right, I'll pause there. Any questions? All right, well, thanks so much, and good luck to everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the Director of Languages here, and what I love about my role is that I get a K-12 view of every single language that we have here: Mandarin, Spanish, Latin, French. So I pretty much know your child's language learning journey, even though I might not specifically know your child. So I could give you a great overview of where they probably are right now in their language learning journey and what the experience is going to be like. But of course, to know more specifics, if you have any questions, please contact your child's world language teacher. So in world languages, the way we teach world languages now is probably very different as to how you learned a world language, unless you learned with the more modern methods like today. Usually, so for example, how I grew up, it was pretty much memorize this conjugation, fill in the blank, and then it was very challenging to then go out in the world and actually use it in an authentic context. So the way we view teaching languages is in 3 buckets. What I just described, which is still important to memorize vocabulary and grammar, because if not, how are you going to actually use it, is what we call achievement. So in part of this exam experience, there will be some achievement elements where students have to demonstrate, well, do they know how to conjugate in the certain way that they studied in that particular unit? Or do they know how to use the vocabulary words of that unit in context? So there may be some traditional achievement aspects in which they are assessed. And the teacher does a great job of providing a study guide or review sessions to demonstrate to students how to demonstrate their learning on that type of achievement, more traditional type of test. However, the other type of way that we assess languages is what we call performance. We actually want to have a simulation in the classroom wherein the students are demonstrating what they learned so far in a real world context. So I'll give you an example of what the students' experience is going to be like. So for example, in Mandarin, they're going to be talking about their day in the life of a New Canaan high school student. They have to give like a little oral presentation as if they were speaking to someone in a Chinese-speaking country, for example, like Taiwan. And they're like, okay, these are my classes, this is where I have them. So it's like a real life situation if they were to meet someone of their age or of any age to speak in Mandarin. In Spanish, they're going to be just spontaneously creating a simulation of an Instagram Instagram post wherein they pretend that they've attended a real life cultural event that's happening around this time, and they're explaining to their friends in Spanish, what the event was like. So they're also demonstrating their use of the past tense, right? In French, it's a little bit more creative. They're going to be engaging in an interpersonal interview, wherein one student's going to be the journalist and the other student's going to be the party planner who just threw a fabulous party for a francophone important figure. And they're going to have to say what the party was like. Once again, you could tell we're really looking to see if they can use past tense, right? And for the journalist, can they also use that present tense right there spontaneously? And then in Latin, this one's interesting. They're reading in Latin, and they have to demonstrate their understanding by choosing a character in that Latin work and writing a eulogy for them to demonstrate, how society would have viewed them back then. So we try to put them in real life situations, authentic situations, and engaging situations, because we want them to demonstrate their use of the language in an authentic way, and also in a way that will excite them to get that anxiety down, like Ms. Rivera said, because anxiety is not our friend when we're learning languages. The more anxious we are, that affective filter goes up and we can't demonstrate everything that we know. So our teachers work really hard with our students to make sure that they're not anxious. That's why I have down here the last one. Please collaborate with your child and their teachers to ensure, are you okay? Check in. If you have a question, please ask profe or madame or le or she. Ask them because we have study materials accessible, the real world focus that I talked about, our assessment tools, those are the various methods I just described. And the midterm experience should really be, does everyone like being in the midterm time? No, but we try to make it as enjoyable as possible to them, because if they're not experiencing joy when they're using the language, then it's going to be that much harder to gather that data. And what's exciting about those performance tests that I mentioned to you in each of the languages, and also depending on your child's level, they might have a different experience, but we use our performance rubrics to let them know where their proficiency level might be in that particular area. So they get important data. Oh, you're novice high. Oh, you're intermediate low, on their journey to get the seal of biliteracy by graduation. Just a little note on the seal of biliteracy. Students graduate with the seal of biliteracy. It's a distinction from the state of Connecticut. They get a gold seal on their diploma. They denote that on the transcript, and they wear a pin on graduation as well to demonstrate that they've earned it, at least in a language other than English. They have to successfully complete 4 years of English upon graduation, and then also demonstrate at least an intermediate mid-level of proficiency in their language of study, usually in their junior or senior year. And the language teacher has more data on that. But we use our performance tests to show them where they are on their journey to their seal of biliteracy, to excite them and keep them going. Hopefully this was enough of an overview, but if you have any more questions, you could contact your student's world language teacher. Thank you so much for coming. And now I will present Michael Leduc, in social studies. Yeah.
Good morning, Mike Fercucci, Social Studies Department. For your child's World History 1 exam, they'll be doing an in-class essay. It's a document-based question. It's a fairly standard assessment type in the social studies. It kind of is a culmination of all the various skills that we work on in the class, and those skills are listed here. So the general makeup is they'll get an essay prompt in advance, so during the preparation period, they'll kind of know which content throughout the semester is useful and helpful. And most teachers, I hesitate to say all, I'm going to say most teachers will allow students to bring in a page or two of notes in order to write the essay, so it's less about memorization and more about understanding, the key terms, the key concepts we've worked with, and how to apply them to the task. So again, the way it's set up, I had started with the essay prompt. They're also given a document set, primary sources, usually about 9 or 10, and their job is to respond to the prompt with main ideas that are supported from those sources. So if you look through the skills, the first of which are those literacy skills that we work on, reading closely, understanding not only what's explicitly said in these primary sources, but what's implied, what it suggests about the larger society it came from, and things of that nature. And then, of course, communicating those thoughts clearly in writing. And then those historical thinking skills are where they can kind of hopefully find patterns within the sources that they're given, trends that they can put together arguments for, and ultimately it's about making claims and providing evidence for those claims. It's a basic skill that we continually work on, and hopefully over the semester they get more comfortable with that practice. As far as the content goes, the midterm, like I said, they'll get the prompt in advance, and the prompt focuses heavily on a theme which has carried through the entire semester, so hopefully it's not a big surprise to them. They should already have practice writing about that theme in more contained scenarios. Now we're just trying to pull it all together. And I think I included it. Yeah, so with freshmen first semester, we focus on the role of unifying belief systems, how religions impacted ancient civilizations, whether it be their governments, their social structures, their economies, all sorts of things. And as we march through each content unit, we kind of focus on different institutions in different areas. So again, the hope is that they can kind of pull all that learning together to make some broader claims about the role of belief systems, especially in ancient civilizations. As far as the exact exam in each class, while all students will be writing an in-class essay, some teachers handle it a little bit differently to kind of reflect how they approach teaching it, so the work is more consistent with what they've done throughout the semester. So you might see some teachers giving a couple multiple choice questions on each of the sources in the document set. Some teachers find that gives students some motivation to read a bit more closely, think a bit more in depth about the sources and things of that nature. But teachers will be real clear on what the exam will exactly look like, and we'll have study guides to reflect all that. How to prepare, really the best thing they can do is rely on the resources that their classroom teacher gives them. We're really diligent about being very clear on what's expected, where the information should come from, and all of those sort of things. So if they've got an organized notebook from the semester, they're in great shape. If maybe that's a skill they're working on, they'll have time in class the week leading up to exam to try to organize their materials and be in a good place to prepare. We will post the study guides before Christmas vacation, I believe. Over Christmas vacation, I think the best thing they can do to prepare, though, is just organize all their stuff. Take a few minutes, go through their social studies stuff, maybe put it in order, put it in, try to get it so that they can work with it easily and navigate it quickly. If they're coming in for the prep days with a mess of crumply papers in their bag, it's going to be a little more difficult for them to use that time effectively and ask questions and all that sort of stuff. And the last kind of piece of advice, try to encourage them to avoid some of the shortcuts that are available on the internet. A lot of them like websites like Quizlet to prepare review materials and things like that. And while those can be helpful, they're often made by teachers around the country, and the content in them might not match up with the content of their particular course. So while finding those resources saves some time, creating their own notes, reorganizing their own notes, things like that, that's kind of the learning process that will help them do well. But I think most importantly, when we do have review days, just, hopefully they can use that time wisely, be proactive, reach out to their teachers if they have questions, all those sort of things. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
And I might have missed this.
All
Did
good.
you say that the prompt and the sources are given ahead of time?
So just the prompt this time around. They may with the first essay, usually we give them all the documents without the prompt. And in the preparation, we're kind of heavy-handed in pushing them to guess what the prompt is. It doesn't come as a big surprise. This time around, they get the prompt in advance. And the idea is, can they, use the textbook, use their notes to find whatever relevant kind of evidence that they can, and then in reading the sources, make those connections on their own. Understood, it's a new approach, and we, of course, grade with that in mind, but that's kind of the gear we're trying to get them prepared for. Yep. Thank you. Up next, we have Ms. Pavia in math.
Hi, everyone. Just by a show of hands, how many of you are first-time freshman midterm parents? Okay. So our math midterms are generally a broad overview of all of the things that they've learned throughout the semester. So their unit tests are probably even more challenging than what's on the midterm. It's really supposed to be like an overview of what they can do, an indicator to us of what they've retained and what they can carry forward with them into next year. So when we approach math instruction, we go with procedural fluency, which is really your facts, your, just the basic algebra functions, like can you solve an equation? Can you just kind of do those like skills quickly? Then there's obviously the application of how this applies to the real world, and then some of those conceptual understandings. And so as students are studying, what we really want them to do is focus on like where are they falling apart. That metacognition piece is like, where do I struggle? So a lot of times, if a kid comes home and says that test was so different than what I was prepared for, it might be because they were really struggling with the conceptual understanding or the application questions, which might not exactly mirror what was happening, or the similar thinking was being taught, but that particular application might not have been exactly something that they have experienced before. Our midterms focus more on the skill, and the applications are not as intense. It's, again, that broad overview. But we always want students to kind of understand where their weaknesses are, and that will help focus their study strategies. So in class, obviously, that active listening, questioning their own understanding. At home, just that, the repetition is helpful, reviewing their notes. This is not something they should be waiting like the night before. Like, okay, I got 3 hours, I'm going to study for my math midterm. Like, longevity is going to be their friend here. We cover a lot of material, a lot of grounds in a single semester, usually 4 units or so. And those units will build, but, all those little pieces, along the way they have to remember. And a lot of times when students will study, they'll look over things and say, okay, yeah, I can follow what I did here. But on the midterm, you're getting a question from scratch. So I think it's really important that kids really practice those questions the way they're going to see them on the test. Rewrite a question from your unit test. Pull just different information so you're getting that repetition, and try it as if you were sitting in a math test taking it. You're not going to have notes. You're not going to have, an example to look at. And then analyze that work. Where did I get stuck? Because that's really going to help them focus their study strategies, and the questions they can bring to their teacher or to the math lab. So in the weeks before, I think that study plan is super important. I think they should map out, if they're waiting until the night before that midterm, or okay, I don't have that midterm until period 7. I'll start studying on Wednesday. It's going to lead to weaker results. They really should be continually reviewing their notes, making a list of facts. Depending on the teacher, some teachers may allow them a few, like a note card or something like that. But even if your teacher doesn't allow notes, they should make one anyway. Because often, kids will make a cheat sheet and then they'll go, I didn't even have to look at it because I remembered everything. So even if their teacher won't let them use it, just that idea of putting all that work together and knowing what's important and what formulas I need to remember will help them in their study process. It's obviously, it's a little bit anxious, but just go in and do your best. It's 10% of your grade. It's not, your semester scores are 90% of your grade. So while it'll impact things, it's not this huge burdensome thing that's going to define their future or something like that. So they should, feel good in their preparations, get a good night's sleep the night before, come in calm, just ready to just perform the way they've been practicing. So if that preparation has been successful, they should be in good shape the day of the test. Okay. Question?
You mentioned best way to study would be to review some of the unit test questions that maybe they don't have. Do they or will they have those unit tests to be able to look back on and look at those problems?
So some teachers did hang on to their unit tests, so they can be available during the class. They also have the reviews, and they will get a review packet before Christmas break. So we do that because some students say I have this time and I want to use it so I don't stress out when I come back, and some students say I want a break, and both of those are perfectly acceptable. So they should have at least some sense of what's happening beforehand. Question?
Is it a department test that's consistent, or do the teachers do individual?
No, most of our unit tests and this midterm are all department-based. So unless a teacher teaches a course by themselves, they're not really coming up with their own exam. It's consistent across courses. All right. And just a reminder, the math lab will be open, so we have drop-in math help if they get stuck in their studying. Ms. Prince would love to see them. Okay, and next, Mr. Leduc for science.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Leduc. I'm the chair of the science department. We have 4 different freshman courses available for our 9th grade students. And regardless of which course they're in, the exam experience is going to be pretty comparable in that there are no surprises here. As our other chairs have shared, this is just a continuation of what students have been doing all year. The test formats are similar to what they've had for all of their unit tests. Typically, that includes multiple choice questions and some free response questions. Usually it's responding to text or data-based stimulus and then analyzing that. It's a continuation of the 3 dimensions of science that we already teach at the high school. So thinking of what scientists do, what they know, and how they think and link things. So students are well versed in this at this point, and it's just a continuation of the skills they've been practicing. Study guides will all be posted before break. Again, no expectation that students do study over break, but it's available to them if they'd like to do that. Teachers also have all of the students' unit tests that they can look over at any time, either during class, they'll have some review time, or they can make additional time before school, after school, during free periods to look over previous assessments with teachers. And much like other teachers said, we certainly don't recommend waiting to the last minute and studying all at once. So consistent, smaller study breaks are better. So maybe making a plan with your child about how to split up usually the 3 to 5 units that they've had so far this year, split those up and make a plan for how to approach them. The assessment itself is going to be a little more synthesis based, and so it's going to be thinking across units as well. And so just making sure they have a strong understanding of each of those units and how they relate to each other. Students have had great success with making concept maps to show how those ideas are related to one another, and definitely have them explain what they've learned to you and do their best to I like to say find the holes in the boat. So where they're explaining and then they kind of struggle to explain it, well, that's the spot you got to go patch. That's where you have to keep studying and find a deeper understanding. And so having them explain it to you, even if you don't understand it or if it's not something you're well versed in, finding where they're uncomfortable is the important part, and then that can guide their studying. Any questions for me? Okay, thank you. I'm definitely available afterwards as well if you have any questions.
So there's a few themes that I heard here, and one of the things is really, and when I talk to kids all the time, it's about active studying. And when I asked them how they study, they said, well, I looked over my notes. And we all know that that is not effective at all. It goes in that idea of, you know, having them explain out loud any concept, whether it's history or math or anything, is really that moment where they realize, oh, I don't really have this, and I can't really understand this. So to really break it down, look at those tests they didn't do well on, make them explain why they didn't do well on those. A lot of times when talking to me, they dismiss it as a one-off. Well, then let's go back and look at that unit and you explain it to me. And those are the kinds of things to have them take a little more time. Our window is shorter than in past years. We get back so late, so there's not as much time as in past years for teachers to really prep and help the kids study. So making that plan is important to really have them be well. And then for home, make sure they have a good breakfast. We'll have lots of snacks here. Do we have the therapy dogs this time? We have therapy dogs to help, which seems to be the best thing to do. I think the gym will be open for kids to go and just run around a little bit if that's what they need. And there's plenty of like quiet spaces if they prefer that. So we try to do our best by having them be as prepared as possible, while also saying, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. So it's actually, because they're shorter days, they have time in the morning to get help from teachers before an exam. They, for kids who get accommodations, who might have extended time, they can come earlier to start the exam and stay later to finish the second exam if they have to. So we can look at their schedules and really try to help them figure out how that's going to work for them. Do we have any overall questions? Yeah.
So I noticed, I think it was on the foreign language presentation, that the grade would be included in the second quarter grade. But I'm not sure I understand whether all the midterm grades are included in the second quarter or third quarter.
Yeah,
What's the
general,
relationship?
I get it. He's asking about how it figures into the semester grade, right?
What's the relationship between quarters and semesters?
So you get a quarter grade, a quarter one grade they just received, right? And then they'll get a second quarter grade plus the midterm exam grade. I consider those separate, but some departments may incorporate it into the second quarter, which is, they're right, but then, so the first quarter is 40% of your grade, the second quarter is 40% of your grade, the midterm exam is 10% of your grade. Oh, 45, 10, math. That's why I'm a counselor. Yes. So, does that make sense?
Electives, if the department wasn't here, does that mean there's no midterm in those classes?
Not necessarily. They tend to be very different depending on the course. I don't think there's a lot, Becky, do
So
you?
many of the electives do more of like project-based exams, whether they're doing it ahead of time and then there's some culminating presentation, or they're doing like a project in class together. If it's anything different than that, then the teachers, of course, will explain to students what that looks like. But for all the electives, it really does look different, but there's some sort of culminating assignment activity in all our electives.
But, sorry, and then follow-up. So depending on the class, they may or may not need to be there for the hour and a half.
Correct.
Exam.
And they will get that information from their classroom teachers, so they should be aware of that.
For electives, they need to be there for the exam. Health and PE, they do not. The half blocks, they do not. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So my question is more about motivation. So all of this stuff is so cool. I did it, I would do it, easy. Any stories, tactics, any examples? Oh, and this is what, really encouraged this kid to like go for gold, or this is what encouraged the kid to study in a new way, or any stories, any motivation.
It's something we work on constantly for that unmotivated student. Oftentimes, it's their peers that are the best motivation in terms of working and really putting together groups. Like if he's not particularly motivated to do it himself, say, why don't you go study with a friend and go to the library in town and get involved. Yes, go ahead.
And I would say your student has had months now to get to know their teacher, and so the teacher hopefully understands a bit about the student's motivations at this point and how they can connect with them. So definitely I would encourage them to have a one-on-one conversation with their teacher as well, probably outside of class time, just so it can be more of a conference than like a in-class question.
And it's not out of the question for you to email the teachers and say you have concerns about how your child is preparing, and if they have any suggestions, that would probably be helpful.
Kind of a follow-up to that. Chrissy, you just went through this last year, right? Like, what are some tips that you found, like, for Kinsey that really, like, probably made the difference that maybe we didn't see here?
So I think teachers really do a nice job of providing the structure, especially in this first, midterm experience for freshmen. So I think really attending classes, right? Trying to be prepared in those review sessions, right? Because that's like the teachers are available. Like our New Canaan High School students are busy. So taking advantage of the time when they're in class to ask those questions, to do some of those review problems ahead of time, so then after those, they can do additional, if they need to, then they might be okay. So sometimes what I notice with some freshmen is like they'll come to the review and wait to do it there, and then they're doing that extra review after when their teacher support isn't there. So again, every student's gonna work at different paces and have different levels of motivation, but I think that if they can really follow kind of how the teachers structure it for them, I think that's where they'll be the most successful. Do you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, and I think feedback from teachers too, like just teachers again know their students, and even like the more anxious kids will be like, well, I did this, 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 and this, and just hearing from your teacher like you're in good shape. Like sometimes that is also a little bit of a relief as well. I do think sometimes the midterm reads are a little bit. I don't want to say it negatively, but I think it's a little bit of a wake up call. Like they haven't taken these larger tests before necessarily. So I do think it is a learning experience in itself as well. Because then for the finals, it'll be like, okay, this worked, this didn't work. So I think the whole thing is just one big opportunity for them to learn who they are and learn who they are as learners and work with their teachers and their students.
And the truth is, like, students are studying, and it's challenging for all kids, right? It's a new experience. So just reminding them, you're not alone. Like, there are 1,300 kids who are feeling similar, and just encouraging, like, utilize your teachers' extra time, extra hours maybe they have. But we do have the writing center, so if they have their prompt for their DBQ for social studies, they could pop in and kind of share their thinking if they're on the right track. And we do have our math lab, so they can drop in there and do some problems if maybe they don't need to go see their teacher or schedule time, but they know that, oh, I just have these 2 questions I want to get quickly. Like, we now have that resource. Thinking about where they're concerned or worried, and then trying to have some problem-solving tactics and how can they address those so that they just kind of calm themselves. Because they will all be okay.
And I always remind everyone, it's first semester of freshman year, it counts the least overall. And so often it's like, okay, you just went through it, what are we doing differently for finals now? Because you're going through this again. So it won't alter their GPA significantly if they do lousy on one exam, so.
Is there a way that we can talk to, especially for kids who have older siblings who haven't gone through this process, talk to students in higher grades? And I always encourage my kids to talk, but then obviously he's shy, like whatever, he's not. Is there like a space where they can go and talk to like kids from older grades to just, you know, even without them asking questions, the parents telling them what to expect? Like hearing from a kid is different from hearing from a parent.
Yeah. We don't have a program like that, but it's a great idea. If they're on their sports teams, a lot of times they have people that they know that are older. Many of their classes are mixed classes, particularly math is a mix of sophomores. Yeah, a lot of the electives have mixed classes, so that's where they could possibly look for some help on those things.
For students who want to sort of schedule time with their teachers for extra help, is standard practice for them to just email their teachers, and how does that scheduling work out?
And so what do you guys as teachers think?
Some teachers might post a schedule, like depending. I think there's time on the midterm schedule for extra help in the morning, but email is always a great quick check-in. The Schoology pages may have something as well. The teachers might post their extra help sessions because the midterm schedule is just a little bit different.
I'd say email is helpful just because teachers sometimes teach in multiple classrooms and they just want to make sure, even if it is a drop-in time, students might not know exactly where to go. So just having that communication so that they can find them at the right time. We do have scheduled half days. I don't know if you checked out the schedule before I got here.
Yeah.
And so the teachers will certainly be available, but knowing that a student is coming can be really helpful as well.
Yeah, because oftentimes they just ran down to make copies or something, and that didn't, they're missing, they didn't know to expect your child, so always helpful. Anything else?
What's really nice is they'll have the whole long weekend and they'll be done. So you can enjoy that as a family.
One final thing, many of you know Jeff Slingo was here last week. We're still selling his books over there, so if anybody wants to buy a book, we've got Erica over there, Erica Shadler, to take your cash or
Happy
your
to take the money.
school books or whatever. Yep.
So, do you know how long it takes for the grades to come out? Because you're saying it'll be a relaxing weekend, but I know my kids, it won't be a relaxing weekend. She's going to be focused on what her grade was. So, do you know, like, generally?
About a week and a half, would you say? Go ahead.
It really depends on the teacher, and in certain courses, teachers might grade things as a team. So the honors biology teachers might get together and kind of peer grade some of those questions. That takes time. If a teacher is giving a test on the Monday, that might come back a little sooner than a student taking it on Friday. I would expect to not have grades before the long weekend.
Because now they're doing semester grades as well at that point.
Actually, that's a follow-up. So when they come back, they'll be in semester 2, correct?
Correct.
So when they come back. Right. I guess roughly, when are the semester 1 grades? Like, when do they come out?
We can definitely get the date. It's already, we have it posted somewhere, but it's usually about a week and a half after the end of a semester or a quarter.
And as teachers are grading, things will be posted, they're just not final until that time period.
Yep.
So how far in advance can we see their schedule?
A little louder, please.
How far in advance can we see their schedule of their midterms, like say what day they'll have what subject, or if they have one at all?
So you need to, you can take,
Go back to the second thing.
so now your child can take this schedule that they're going to see. They look and see, like, period 1, they have English. Now they know period 1 is on Monday at 9:30, okay? At period 2, they have health. Oh, gee, I can go home after period 1. So they can look at it that way.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so like say if they don't have something, period 7 and 8, they don't come in on that Friday.
They don't have to come in. Yeah.
And it will be updated in Power School, like they have the Power School app, so I don't think it's updated right now, but in the next couple of days it should be.
Yeah, so they can look and see. So, and this does come home, and it's on the website too, what the exam schedule is each day. So you'll see that too.
And the 16th is the last day of the semester.
Yes. Yes. So that goes Friday, Monday. We don't have a day the Monday.
We have Monday off.
Oh, yeah. Tuesday, that's.
Tuesday starts, yeah.
Starts the second semester. So, okay. Thank you, everyone. That was helpful.
Happy holidays if we don't see you.